Today is the deadline for businesses that accessed pandemic emergency loans from the federal government to either pay them back and pay less or start accruing. CB24's Courtney Heels has much more on the story. What it might mean for some of the businesses, Courtney, that of course are right on the brink. You're in the Eglinton and Bathurst area today, but really right across the country, Courtney, businesses are struggling right now.
That's right, Nick. About 900,000 small businesses applied for CEBA. This is the Canadian Emergency Business Account. It meant up about close to $60,000 in interest-free money for these small businesses to stay open during the shutdowns of the pandemic. But the pressure is now on. The deadline is today to pay that money back. Also would mean some loan forgiveness. But we know this comes at a time when many of these small businesses are just trying to bounce back. I want to bring in Keith Jolly. He is the owner of Swing Golf Lounge in Toronto. Keith, I would like to start with your story and how CEBA was able to support you and your business during the pandemic.
Hi, Courtney. Good morning. So we applied for the loan back in 2021 because we were closed for a year and a half. We had zero revenue, and so we needed the CEBA loan to stay afloat.
And were you able to pay it back?
And we have paid it back, although that is going to result in some very significant cash flow pressure in the coming months because we were forced to pay it back in order to retain the $20,000 forgiveness portion.
I know you're not alone in that, Keith. We're hearing from a lot of small businesses dealing with the pressures of just trying to stay open right now. Are you able to share what you're coping with there?
Yeah, I mean, in our environment, we've faced inflationary pressure, staffing costs, input costs, massive increases in rent. Meanwhile, we haven't been able to increase our pricing for the last 5 years because of competitive pressure in our industry.
Now, looking at the big picture here, I know, Keith, you've been pretty vocal about changes you'd like to see the government make when it comes to asking for the repayment for this loan. What do you think the government could do better?
I mean, I think one thing the government has missed is they didn't draw the distinction between those who desperately needed the CEBA loans and those who just wanted the CEBA loans. So if we look at the the industries of arts and entertainment, sports and hospitality, they were closed. They were obeying the law, and some had minimal or even zero revenue, such as us. Other businesses operated fairly normally and had very decent revenues, but the government hasn't made that distinction in terms of paying back these CEBA loans. We had the longest lockdowns in the world, and it was a huge struggle. The government could have made that distinction because they had that data. They had that submission of revenue in the CERB rent subsidy and the CEWS wage subsidy, and they could have used that to make some distinction between who had to pay back earlier and who might be able to pay back later.
And we know there are a lot of small business owners who simply don't have the money right now to pay it back because they're just trying to get back on track here. Keith Jolly, thank you for taking your time to speak with us, sir. We really appreciate your take on all of this.
Thanks, Corey.
This is a big day, a bit of a tough one, too, because we know there are small businesses who haven't yet paid back this loan and they're not sure where they're going to find the money. What we're hearing from the federal government, about 70% of businesses have paid it back. But for the other 30%, it could be a challenging day. Over to you.
Yeah, big day indeed. OK, thanks for setting this up. Courtney Heels for us live this morning.